I never once suspected that my wife would betray me. Did I really not notice her deception? It's hard to see the truth when everyone around you is conspiring against you. Hiding a terrible secret. Finally, I enjoy the peace and quiet when the house is completely at my disposal. A game is playing on the huge screen. 2 cold drinks have already been consumed, and even more are ready to be consumed in the mini refrigerator next to my comfortable chair, and now someone is on the phone. I really hope it's not some annoying salesman or robot. If that's the case, they're going to get an earful from me. It was Wednesday evening about 8 o'clock. Vanessa, my wife, usually worked late on Wednesdays, so I was always looking forward to an evening of relaxation or entertainment. Tonight was perfect for staying at home. Earlier in the day, I had eaten a delicious medium-rare pizza from Giordano's and drank a couple of bottles of beer. Then I settled back to watch the Cubs game while sipping a few more Coronas. 2 chilled bottles of beer were by my side and 6 more were in the fridge. The night was just fantastic. Vanessa usually arrived around 10 o'clock, took a quick shower, and by 11 o'clock we were comfortably settled together. Wednesday nights were always relaxing. I knew that my peace would be interrupted by a phone call despite my doubt. I picked up the phone, feeling the burden of responsibility. It was the least more the wife of Lauren, Vanessa's boss. She called in a serious condition to inform me that Lauren had a heart attack while working with Vanessa. She called emergency services and he was in critical condition. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital. And Vanessa wrote with him in the ambulance. I promised Elise I'd give her a ride later, as she planned to stay with Lauren until he recovered. I wished Lauren a speedy recovery and assured Elise that I would be heading to the hospital soon. Vanessa had worked under Lauren for 22 years, starting at his environmental consulting company right after graduating from college. She rose through the ranks and became his confident and irreplaceable employee, often called his right hand. When Vanessa started working at Lauren's company, I already knew her, and over the years our families got to know each other better. Vanessa always praised Lauren, saying he was a great boss who was a great man who was a great boss who ensured she received fair compensation. Lauren, a Frenchman 10 years older than Vanessa and me, is now 55 years old. He keeps himself in good shape by exercising regularly and has charisma, often the center of attention at social events, charming both men and women. Lauren was always in control of the situation. I was shocked by Lauren's unexpected heart attack parking in the hospital lot next to the emergency department. I hurried to the reception desk to ask about Lauren, introducing myself as Vanessa's husband and expressing concern about her whereabouts. While I was talking to the nurse, a couple of medics nearby caught my attention. One of them muttered something about a scoundrel, which confused me, but my main task was to find Vanessa. A minute later, Vanessa and Elise came out of the room looking upset. We hugged with tears in our eyes. Vanessa broke the heartbreaking news about Lauren's sudden death from a massive heart attack. I was stunned into silence as we stood in the hallway hugging tightly, overcome with emotions and tears. Elise, a French citizen, had been married to Lauren for 35 years. They got married at a young age and moved to another country when Lauren got a job at an American environmental consulting firm at the beginning of the Green Movement. They have a daughter named Sophie who is 3 years older than my daughter Emma, who is 18. The similarity between the girls is so striking that they can easily be mistaken for sisters. Lauren had a special bond with Sophie, and I couldn't help but feel that the situation would be especially difficult for her. One of the medics came up to me and asked if I was Vanessa's husband. After confirming this, he handed me Vanessa's purse, which she had left in her. I moved away from the emotional women, took Vanessa's purse in my left hand, thanked the ambulance doctor, and shook his hand with my right when I started to put away the purse. I was surprised to find a bra inside. In the confusion of the women's tears, I hadn't noticed that Vanessa wasn't wearing a bra. It seemed strange to me and made me ponder the current situation, not knowing how long we would be at the hospital. With Elise, we finally decided it was time to leave, as Sophie was due to arrive from the university in the morning. Elise, you need to make sure to get some good rest and sleep. I'll take you to our house tomorrow. We'll help you retrieve the car from the emergency room parking lot and Vanessa's car from her workplace. I told Elise when we got home. Vanessa didn't say a word to me. She immediately went to the main bathroom and took a shower. 20 minutes later, she was sitting with me in the living room, her eyes swollen and red from crying as she sat down on the sofa with a worried look. I left the comfortable chair and walked over to her, hugging her tightly. Her breathing was uneven and I could feel her body shaking with tears. I wanted to ask her about the incident with Lauren and why she wasn't wearing a bra, but I couldn't find the words to bring it up that evening. So I just held her quietly for another 20 minutes until she said she was tired and went to bed. It was after midnight and I also decided to call it a night and go to bed. The next day, I decided to take a day off from work. When I got ready, I offered to take Vanessa to her office so she could pick up her car. However, she looked upset and couldn't speak clearly at first. After a while, she came to her senses and asked if I could take her to Elise's. They needed to arrange for a taxi to take them to Lauren's office to collect some of his belongings. According to Vanessa's plan, she and Elise had to visit the hospital to sort out paperwork and pick up Lauren's personal belongings. Despite my offer to help, she politely declined. This turned out to be a blessing for me, as I needed to find the emergency doctors who were at the hospital the previous night and get some information from them. After leaving Vanessa at Elise's house and receiving a brief update on Elise's health, I immediately went to the hospital. I quickly learned the names of the paramedics who responded to the call, and they told me how to find them. I found them at the rescue station as instructed. They remembered me from the previous night. I figured out the person who gave me Vanessa's purse was named Garrett, judging by his badge. "Garrett," I said, asking him how the emergency started. He hesitated. "What do you mean?" he asked suspiciously, looking at me. "My wife and Lauren were supposed to be picked up from the hotel. But you didn't do that, did you?" asked. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound guilty," he replied, his voice becoming sharper. "In the past, we've encountered cases where people checked into a room under false pretenses. And when problems arose, all the blame fell on us. Please don't be angry with us." "Relax. Garrett, I'm not accusing you. I'm just trying to get to the truth. It will become a problem if you don't truthfully tell me what happened," I said. "We went to the West Side Hotel." Garrett responded quickly. When the man suddenly collapsed and lost consciousness. No more than 15 minutes had passed. The woman called emergency services. And while we were en route, she administered CPR to save his life. By the time we arrived at the emergency room, the man could barely stand on his feet, said the paramedic from the rescue service. I thanked both of them and left, feeling their sympathetic gazes on me. Vanessa was in a secret relationship with Lauren, who died of a heart attack. How long had this deception lasted? A sudden realization hit me like a lightning bolt. The uncanny resemblance between Emma and Sophie was not accidental. They were sisters. Vanessa had maintained this connection for almost 2 decades. How could I have been so blind to this all this time? I berated myself for foolishly believing that Vanessa and Lauren were working late. They often spent evenings with friends and went on business trips together, creating all the conditions for their affair. How could Elise not have noticed all this? Despite being sometimes clueless, it seemed unlikely that she wouldn't have noticed, especially considering how much our daughters looked alike. Elise was a frequent visitor to Lauren's workplace and apparently was friends with Vanessa. How could Vanessa betray her in such a way? When I got home, Vanessa's car was parked in the garage. I found her in the living room, casually sipping wine. My disappointment must have been clear as day. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked innocently. Despite my attempts to remain calm, anger boiled up inside me. "How long have you been having an affair with Lauren?" I demanded, bitterness in my voice. "He's Emma's father, isn't he?" Vanessa's glass shattered, and she jumped up from the couch in a rage. "How dare you make such filthy accusations?" she shouted furiously, her gaze deadly. If looks could harm, hers would be lethal. I stood my ground, unshakable in my convictions, resolutely meeting her gaze. Despite speaking in a low tone, my words were harsh. "You can tell me whatever you want, but don't try to deceive me. If you do, you'll regret it. In our 20 years of marriage and even before that, never threaten my wife." Shock showed on her face. She was speechless. Her mouth opened as if she wanted to say something, but my stern expression silenced her. Instinctively, she took a step back, as if sensing the tension in my eyes. "You know what you did," I said, watching her slowly return to the couch, seemingly oblivious to the wine stain on the carpet. "Your affair, combined with his love for physical exercises, probably played a role in his death. To be honest, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, considering how deeply connected you were." It was clear from her worried expression that I had touched a nerve. She looked down at her hands, nervously fidgeting with them. Though it seemed like an eternity, In reality, it was only a brief moment. I often wonder if Elise shares the same thoughts as me. I whispered to Vanessa. What could make you think that? Vanessa whispered back. If only she knew about your relationship. I said bluntly. She knew about us. Vanessa whispered, thinking. Elise not only knew about our relationship, but supported it from the very beginning. Moreover, sometimes she even joined us, especially during business trips. She believed that I should find happiness with Lauren, given his significant role in the success of our business. She was glad that I was taking care of Lauren at the office while she was at home. I sank into a chair, feeling disoriented and confused. So I'm the only one who didn't know the truth. What about Emma? I asked in disbelief. Emma has known about this for 4 years. She's resigned to it. Vanessa replied. Oh no, Emma knows and she's fine with it? I exclaimed. Oh my God. I continued sarcastically. But it wasn't in my plans. I didn't want it. It's an accident. Vanessa spoke up. Does Elise know that Emma is Lauren's child? I asked. Elise knows and she's fine with it. Sophie knows too. Vanessa said, I found some solace in the realization that my relationship with Vanessa was not solely based on physical desire, and yet it hurt me to find out that she had feelings not only for me but also for him. I have always believed in the ideals of monogamy, and this discovery left me deeply wounded. I confessed. The concept of one single partner for each person was questioned because Vanessa, despite being the main recipient of my primary intimacy, also shared a connection with someone else. Vanessa put down her tea and looked at me as if trying to peer into my soul. I thought about her silent question, but I was confused and could not find wise words. After putting down my drink and going to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty in the air. I couldn't understand why she did that, and I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. About 5 minutes later, Vanessa climbed into bed next to me and snuggled up against my back. I pretended to be asleep, avoiding conversations, and even a simple good night. The next morning, I got up at my usual 5 a.m., completed all my usual morning rituals, and went to work. When I left, Vanessa was still asleep and did not indicate that she was going to go to Ecotech. I worked in environmental chemistry, specializing in air quality testing and remediation systems. My success in this field was due to my ability to adapt to changing circumstances and an unwavering desire for success. Sitting at my desk and looking through the pollution control reports for the month, I realized that I needed to focus on work and not be distracted by personal problems. Lauren's departure could have caused a temporary hiccup, but I was confident that I would cope with any difficulties that stood in my way. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and went back to work. I knew the chemical compounds and air filtration systems well, which distinguished me from other consultants. I was not only involved in the development of one of our best products, Pure Air Plus, a system aimed at eliminating harmful airborne compounds in enclosed spaces, but also directly enjoyed its success. It turned out to be a profitable venture for our company, and I received a decent reward for my contribution. Together with Vanessa's income, we led a comfortable lifestyle. We had a beautiful house in a trendy neighborhood, 2 luxury cars, and amazing vacations. Even after the divorce, we'll both be fine financially. Here it is, the word I've been avoiding. It's a good source. It hadn't occurred to me until now, but after Vanessa's betrayal, it seemed like the only way out. Now that my daughter has gone to college and no longer lives at home, we have no reason to continue the relationship. Despite the pain of Vanessa breaking my heart, this should not cause serious concern. I've been working with my boss Marcus Walsh for 18 years now, after working as a chemist for another environmental firm for 5 years. I met Marcus at an industry convention, and we discussed various topics. It was then that he advised me to think about a career in air quality consulting. When I was offered a position in his company, I was intrigued by the challenge and decided to take a step forward. Marcus appreciated my skills, and we both benefited enormously from our working relationship. Not only did we succeed together, but I also saw Marcus as a truly kind person. And we formed a friendship that I think will last a lifetime. Marcus has been happily married to his wife Caroline for about 30 years. At the age of 52, he has 2 adult children and 5 grandchildren. Despite his age, he radiates the vital energy of a much younger man having a sharp mind. He readily attracts other bright minds to work, including me. When I told Marcus about Vanessa's betrayal and my decision to end the marriage, he showed genuine concern. He asked if I was sure of her infidelity, to which I replied that I was sure. He realized that I needed space to think and collect my thoughts. Nevertheless, he gave me the contact details of a lawyer who could represent my interests. Marcus appreciates the dedication of those who succeed and believed in the Meyer team, especially in their divorce department, which served clients with great financial opportunities. He advised me to take as much time as needed, but I assured him that breaks would only be needed occasionally. As the case seemed clear, living in a state where there is no fault divorce, we both intended to prioritize the well-being of our daughter, Emma. We each had our own retirement plan, and we could easily split the proceeds from the sale of the house. I was shocked by how smoothly everything was going. When I returned from work in the evening, Vanessa cooked my favorite dish, spaghetti supreme, and opened a bottle of delicious Merlot. The evening seemed full of possibilities, and I was too caught up in the moment to mention that Lauren was a wine connoisseur. It's not easy to stay organized when you're on the verge of ending a relationship. At dinner, Vanessa kept up her usual lively conversation, pretending that everything was fine between us. After a few minutes, I couldn't hold back any longer and decided to bring up the subject, reluctantly uttering these terrible words. "We need to talk." Without hesitation, she replied sharply, "No, you don't need to." I was surprised by her sharp reaction and the harshness of her tone. I recently found out that she has been in a relationship with her boss for many years. Knowing my strong feelings against infidelity, I was completely shocked. How could she think that I would be able to forgive her, trying to keep my composure? I calmly suggested that we have an adult conversation before taking any legal action. "You can do whatever you want, but I won't agree to a divorce," she replied, her voice clearly annoyed. "The truth is that we love each other, and I don't want to let you go. I will fight for us every step of the way. It's foolish to risk losing the best you've ever had just because your pride is hurt." I tried to reply, but she interrupted me before I could finish. "Before you found out about Lauren and me, did I do anything that would make you doubt my love for you? Have I ever treated you badly? I gave you all the love and care you needed and made sure you were taken care of in every way. Physically, mentally, and emotionally," Vanessa said. "Shouldn't we be each other's most trusted confidants? If you hadn't accidentally found out about this, you would have continued to love me without even suspecting betrayal. Can't we go back to that innocence?" she asked. "No, because the truth has been revealed. Your love for me seems less sincere now that I know you've given yourself to another man, body and soul. You knew it was a betrayal but hid it from me?" I said angrily. "I cannot consider 2 decades of deception a real manifestation of love. The fact that you've been in a relationship with another man for 20 years is disturbing, but admitting that you love him is even more heartbreaking. You shared intimacy with him as you did with me. How does this show your love for me? Putting aside the physical aspect, if it's attainable at all, don't you see that every ounce of love you gave him has been taken away from me? You had enough love for both of us, but it feels like he got it all," I said angrily. "He understood everything, but I knew that you wouldn't be able to understand. So I hid it from you. And now you confirm my suspicions." Vanessa said, "Did he really understand?" "I couldn't understand because I didn't want to accept that you have another partner. Your arguments are absurd. I would never be naive enough to let you make such a choice voluntarily, so you made it yourself solely for your own benefit. It was about satisfying your desires and needs. And believe me, if I hadn't found out, I would have happily lived my life in ignorance," I said almost hysterically. "An absolute fool. This inscription could be carved on my tombstone without hesitation. Here lies Daniel Maxwell, a blissful ignoramus who believed in a blameless life, ignoring his wife's double marital obligations." The funeral and viewing took place on a weekday Monday, but I chose to skip this somber event. Instead, I continued to go about my daily business as usual, going to work. When I got home, I found Vanessa and Emma still dressed in morning clothes in the kitchen. I continued with hysteria and sarcasm. My daughter returned home from college just in time for this event. When I tried to hug her, she pulled away and tears streamed down her face. Vanessa, noticing the tension, put her hand on my arm, silently urging me to calm down. I usually respected her boundaries and didn't interfere with her. But this was an unusual situation. Frustration boiled up inside me, barely contained in the form of a low growl, quickly grabbing the necessary things. I packed my bag and left without delay. As soon as I left, Vanessa flooded my phone with calls that I chose to ignore. Emma, to her credit, did not shy away from the truth. She had already made the decision to present me as the enemy in the story and was adamant about making me pay. At that moment, it became obvious that she no longer considers me her father, either by blood or by heart. The realization of this fact hit me like a brick. The next day, I decided to take control of my financial situation. I went to the bank to split our accounts, close our joint credit cards, and open new ones in my name only. I also set up an appointment with the lawyer Marcus recommended for Thursday. Despite feeling exhausted from not sleeping for 3 days in a row, the lawyer's name was Michael Graves. But something didn't inspire me with confidence in his legal abilities. Despite my fatigue, I did not see the need for further conversations. I explained the situation to him in detail and made it clear that I wanted to get a quick divorce and my share. I also made it clear that I would seek alimony for the maintenance of our daughter from Lawrence's inheritance if she is no longer part of my responsibilities. Her biological father should take financial responsibility. I told Michael that I didn't want to be exploited anymore. And he seemed to agree with my decisions. Despite his warning that Vanessa's disagreement with the divorce could lead to mandatory consultations and lengthy legal proceedings, I remained unperturbed and told him to act. True to her word, Vanessa received the divorce papers at her workplace, the Ecotech main office, the following Monday. Judging by the time, I assumed that she received them at 10 o'clock in the morning. Just a minute later, our secretary informed me about Vanessa's angry call on line 3. All week long, I tried to ignore Vanessa's calls and texts, telling the main staff to send them to my voicemail. They diligently followed my instructions, but I soon realized that avoiding her indefinitely was not the best solution. As a result, I instructed Marlene, our senior secretary, to immediately transfer Vanessa's calls to me. 15 seconds later, the second bell rang. "Don't you dare switch off," she demanded. I stopped talking again, wondering when she would realize that politeness was necessary if she wanted to talk to me. The third call was not long in coming. When I picked up the phone, she was speaking softly, clearly trying to contain her emotions. "You won this time," she said. I replied with feigned enthusiasm. "Wonderful. Please contact my lawyer, Michael Graves, to arrange our meeting. It may be useful for you to attend, and this will help speed up the process." Our meeting was scheduled in 2 weeks. In the meantime, I stayed at a nearby motel, visiting my former home to attend the lawn, pick up mail and pack my things. Vanessa saw me driving up to the house and tried to greet me with the enthusiasm of a long-lost husband, hugging me in the driveway. I gently pushed her away and entered the house. "You didn't have to expose our problems to the public," she commented. "If I'm such a terrible person, why don't you just divorce me?" I replied with a touch of sarcasm. Our meeting with the lawyers was scheduled for 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Being the gentleman that I am, I let Vanessa first lay out her arguments about her unbreakable love for me, despite the fact that there was a special place for Lauren in her heart. She believed that now that he was gone, attention should be paid to me. "Are you really willing to give up 20 years of marriage for this?" she asked. "Does our love have such a low value for you?" "No, precisely because our love meant everything to me, we have to leave this marriage," I replied. "You completely took over my heart and deceived me into thinking you gave me yours in return. How can I not see this as a breach of trust, the very essence of marriage?" I asked. "You knew perfectly well that your actions were deceptive and wrong. You knowingly violated my trust to satisfy your own desires, both physical and emotional. Although Elise knew about your actions and accepted them, leaving me deceived and blinded, this divorce is not the result of my actions, but rather the result of your selfishness and betrayal. I would never accept that you physically share yourself with another man, But sharing your love with someone else is a betrayal on a much deeper level. The pain of this betrayal is much deeper than if you were just having a meaningless affair with another person. I said sadly, you loved him, shared a bed with him, and even had a child with him. The fact that I didn't know about it doesn't justify your actions. You both betrayed my trust. It was lucky that he died of a heart attack that day, because if he hadn't, I would have taken matters into my own hands. I added sarcastically. Vanessa gasped as my words reached her. Tears were already streaming down my cheeks. In all this time, you have never apologized for your infidelity. You were only apologizing for the pain you caused me. I whispered angrily, I'm sorry that we ended up in this situation, but I can't help feeling that your apologies are insincere. I said sadly, Daniel, I still hope that we can work things out and save our marriage. Please, let's not give up. Vanessa begged. Our relationship was supposed to be a partnership, not to separate us. It was supposed to be just us, together forever. I said. Michael looked at Vanessa's lawyer and said, I think our work here is done. Your client must sign the documents and send them to us. Vanessa's lawyer, a serious middle-aged African-American woman, firmly stated, extending her hand to Michael to shake. After settling some minor details over the next few weeks, our divorce was formalized 3 months later. Shortly after the divorce was finalized, I instructed Michael to start a lawsuit against Lawrence's estate. I probably wouldn't have demanded child support and college fees if Emma hadn't made it clear at the funeral that she no longer wanted to maintain any relationship with me. It is unpleasant to receive such disrespect after I have devoted 18 years to raising this child as my own. But apparently, Emma had 4 years to think about this decision. After Tracy informed her about it, and from her point of view, I was just considered a fool after 14 years of sincere paternal care. Everything turned out to be in vain. Therefore, when Michael offered to compensate for the lost respect with the sum of $1 million, I was not offended. I even appreciated Michael's straightforward approach. I was expecting a call from Elise after she was informed of this. Maybe she thought I'd react better to the news from Vanessa. But she was wrong. Was this another form of revenge against me? Vanessa asked when I picked up the phone. Greetings, Mrs. Maxwell. How nice of you to call, I replied. At the same time, I did not lose sight of the reason for her call. You do realize that this makes you incredibly insensitive, right? She noticed. Do you understand that I've been raising someone else's child for 18 years while you, Elise and Lauren were having fun at my expense? I answered her question with a question. And now this kid thinks I'm just dumb. I retorted angrily. I don't care about your opinion. I said, hanging up without bothering to say goodbye. I suspected that Vanessa had passed on my firm stance and stubbornness to Elise as she eventually gave up and sent me a check for $1 million. Interestingly, Elise soon sold Ecotech to a Japanese company for $8 million, proving that she could well afford to part with the $1 million she paid me. It seemed that even without Lauren's involvement, this was a shrewd business move on her part. It would seem that this was the end of the story. But as the famous announcer Paul Harvey often said, that was not all. Just 2 days after the sale of Ecotech, $2 million was transferred to an account in the Cayman Islands in my name. This generous sum was my reward for helping Tanaka Environmental purchase Ecotech within the agreed 9 months. According to the conditions set by Tanaka's unnamed lawyer and myself, the agreement stipulated that if Tanaka successfully completed the purchase by a certain date, I would receive a reward for the effort, regardless of the extent of my participation and how the acquisition process would develop. But as soon as the deadline passed, the deal would stop working. You may be interested to know about my role in the Ecotech deal. To be honest, I wasn't completely transparent about this story. Although most of the events I have described actually happened, I must admit that some details have been exaggerated. I played the role of a man who doesn't understand anything about what is happening, acting out a play that could well have won an Oscar. Let me explain further. It was only a month before Lauren's death that I finally got into the situation. Suddenly, I was contacted by a lawyer from Tanaka who asked me to help negotiate with Lauren about the purchase of Ecotech. I asked, genuinely intrigued, "Why do you think I can help other than my wife's connection to Lauren?" The lawyer replied, We recognize your intelligence and believe in your ability to handle the task of outsmarting the person who has been deceiving you for many years and benefiting from it. I was shocked to the core. The revelation that Vanessa had been unfaithful and that this Japanese man knew about it was truly incredible. Tanaka conducted extensive research on many companies, examining all aspects. They found information about Lauren, Vanessa, Elise, and even their daughters. Knowing that I would be inclined to help them, they wasted no time in presenting me with evidence of Vanessa's infidelity. Given that other environmental consulting firms were also considering this issue, I had a limited 9-month window to take action. They presented me with a lot of evidence. Photographs, videos, phone records, travel receipts, everything needed to expose both of them. Just when I had every chance to bring them down, they made me a tempting offer. Despite the fact that I was already financially secure, they seduced me with a payment of $2 million for helping them wrest control of the company from Lauren. To tell the truth, I was ready to help even without monetary encouragement, but I preferred to keep this feeling to myself. My main focus was on developing a plan to secure my financial future after the divorce, ensuring that I would receive my fair share without any division of property, especially since we live in a state where there is no sense of guilt. It was important for me to keep my composure and not reveal my intentions too early. Although my initial reaction was to resort to cruelty, imagining how I would appear before them at the next meeting and go to extreme measures, I quickly realized the consequences of such a rash decision. The thought of spending my days in prison as a cellmate was not a fate I was willing to accept. I made a conscious decision to stay calm and collected, pretending that I didn't know anything, a tactic I had honed over 20 years. I told Marcus about my findings regarding Vanessa and Lauren without revealing the identity of my informant. We stayed at the lab late into the night, enjoying Don Julio tequila and brainstorming solutions to the problem. When we got to half of the bottle, Marcus sincerely remarked, "You should have given him some of that stuff, Daniel." Suddenly dawned on me what I should do. But given the circumstances, instead of giving it to her, I thought quietly, I should have slipped some to him. 2 problems solved in 1 action. One of the notable advantages of the pure air compound is its ability to be manipulated for different purposes. While the standard formula is designed to neutralize harmful airborne toxins with a slight modification, it can be turned into a substance that, when aerosolized and inhaled over time, can cause severe cardiac stress. Particularly in individuals with an active lifestyle, and the beauty of it, it's nearly impossible to detect in standard toxicology screenings. My only goal was to somehow expose Lauren to this modified compound. Lauren and I are members of the same golf club and often play foursomes with 2 other friends. I had planned that the 4 of us would play next Saturday. After finishing the first 9 holes, we decided to make a pit stop at a restaurant to have a leisurely lunch. The first 9 holes went well, and we enjoyed taking a break for lunch and drinks before proceeding to the second round. When we sat down to eat, I couldn't help but use my professional skills and casually remarked to Lauren, "Are you okay, buddy? You look a little worn out." Acknowledging the age difference, my questions seemed to make him think. When I suggested that tea time be moved back half an hour so that he would have more time to rest, I saw that he was considering this proposal. "No, I'm just a little tired, but there's no need to change our plans because of me. I'll be fine," he replied. He didn't really look tired at all. But I decided to take advantage of his concern that he was the oldest in our group. I reached into my pocket and took out a small package of unmarked clear capsules from my personal stash. These new air purification capsules helped me get through the day. I handed the package to Lauren, offering him one of the capsules inside. "Take one of these over the next few days. If you like them, I can hook you up next time we play golf. Just break it open in your office or bedroom. It releases compounds that clean the air and boost oxygen levels." Lauren took a capsule from the bag, thanked me and nodded his thanks. "I've been meaning to get better air quality at home. Vanessa's been complaining about it for months," he said with a knowing smile that made my blood boil. "These are specially formulated. Really cutting-edge stuff we're developing." I added, "I'd recommend using them in enclosed spaces, like your home sauna or private office. The effect is more concentrated there." Half an hour later, he was pounding his chest like a gorilla and making Tarzan-style screams. Let's go, guys. I feel pumped up, he said enthusiastically. In fact, he would soon start feeling the effects of the capsule's contents. An increase in blood pressure can provide a burst of energy, which is why athletes often psych themselves up before a match. But too much of a good thing can lead to negative consequences. If you're wondering why I gave him a small bag and not a traditional bottle or pill container, the plan was for him to dispose of the bag after using all the capsules, rather than risk someone finding them in his pockets during the upcoming work week. By Wednesday evening, 5 capsules should have been enough. By the usual meeting time for Laurent and Vanessa, his blood pressure would already be elevated from their passionate encounters and my air purifiers. This recipe was a sure way to provoke a heart attack with a fatal outcome. Laurent decided to consume several capsules at once in his private sauna with Vanessa, which led to cardiac arrest due to the limited resources of the crime investigation department in our small town. An additional investigation of the incident was conducted only if there were suspicions. Knowing this, I tried to play the role of a devoted husband perfectly, behaving the same way as a month ago when I first learned about the betrayal. I must say it was a convincing performance. I was able to exact revenge. Marcus and his wife had no idea about anything, and I played the role of a grateful friend, rejoicing at the success of my insidious plan. I was even surprised at how skillfully I behaved at dinner, hiding my true intentions under a facade of gratitude. When Laurent left the game, I was able to manipulate the situation to my advantage by using Marcus as a pawn in my revenge game. The taste of victory was sweet as I watched my plan unfold and realized that I had finally achieved the justice I was striving for. The dynamic of the relationship between Vanessa and Elise has changed markedly, especially after Elise managed to survive Laurent's death in the presence of Vanessa. It was rumored that Elise was especially angry at Vanessa for not convincing me to drop the lawsuit against the estate for unpaid alimony, not knowing that Vanessa would not receive this money because of our divorce. Shortly after the company was sold, Vanessa was immediately fired from her job in disgrace. I hope no serious company will give her a decent position as her reputation has been tarnished. Rumors about Lawrence's inappropriate behavior towards female employees circulated long before his affair became known, so it did not come as a big shock to many in the company. Vanessa lost financial stability and the opportunity to start life anew in a new industry. The scandal may have damaged her reputation for a while. As a result, Vanessa's story was known to many since I took care of it. I did not feel sorry for her or her ungrateful daughter, whom I provided for and raised for 18 years. Now Emma had no one to pay for college, and she had to get a job as an assistant, which was tough for her. Vanessa also works at a fast food restaurant as a cleaner. Emma made it clear that after Lawrence's death, she no longer wanted any relationship with me, refusing me not once but several times. I think this is the result of all the years I spent raising her, supporting her, coaching the soccer team, and attending all her dance concerts. I'm not going to repeat this mistake. Personally, I think I'm doing pretty well, considering the fact that I've lost a life partner I lived with for 20 years. It was a difficult process, but eventually I started dating again. Nevertheless, I doubt that I can fully trust another woman, and I'm not sure that I've lost a life partner I lived with for 20 years. I doubt that I can fully trust another woman, and I'm not sure that I'll ever find someone who can compare to what I had with Vanessa. Despite this, I am free from any obligations with a fortune of about $5 million. I switched to semi-retirement, and now I take on only special projects for my own pleasure. Perhaps one day I will invent an air purification system that will allow forgetful husbands to quickly recognize a cheating wife. This would undoubtedly change society. Thank you for taking the time to read this story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, like and share in the comments. Remember, history is a witness to the past, a light of truth, a living memory, a teacher of life, a messenger of antiquity, and see you soon.